And after that, queen to e8 by Tartakower, preparing for queen to g6 with the idea of h6. But simply queen to e2 by Capablanca, preparing to push e4. So to stop this, knight to e4, asking for knight and bishop exchange, and obviously white cannot capture this knight due to f takes e4 and white has to lose one of them. So that's why here Capablanca decides to exchange the bishops, but before that knight takes c3, targeting this queen. And at the end, you can see here black successfully created this double pawn structure, which can lead to some problem for white in the future. But guys, this exchange also gives some advantage to white due to this open b file in which white can place his rook. And after that, a4. And in the next move, white can place this knight either to e5, or maybe he can go for knight to g5 in future, which can create some problem for black in the future. Keeping that in mind, here Tartakower decides to capture this knight by and after that rook to f6, showing some aggressive intentions on the king side. Maybe this rook wants to jump to h6 square so that he can target this queen, but against Capablanca rock solid setup, it's just for show. uh, Maybe this rook is actually going to become a liability very soon. And after that, f4. Okay, and basically after this move here, Tartakover decides to go for knight to a5, preparing to push c5, and simply queen to f3. And now for black, it's better to just push c5. And obviously white cannot capture this c5 pawn. uh, so let's suppose if he decides to push it further, then simply e takes d5, queen takes d5 check, king to h8, and since this e3 pawn is attacked, so white can defend this by bringing this queen back to f3. This is because let's suppose if white decides to defend this by rook to e1, that will be a big blunder because of the move rook to d6, attacking this queen as well as this bishop. But some of you might be thinking that what about queen takes f5? Yes, you can. By this you can guard this, but what about the move g6? And after this, queen suppose goes anywhere, simply rook takes d3 and black is winning. Okay, so in the actual game, after the move queen to f3, yep, after this move, here black missed this move and instead he goes for And now white can continue with h4, but he goes for this move g3, which is also fine, solidifying this pawn chain. And now for black, it's better to go for queen to c6, trying to exchange this queen so that he can decrease the pressure. But instead he goes for d5, which is an inaccuracy because now because as you can see, it helps white to remove this double pawn structure, and Capablanca exactly does this. A good move by Capablanca attacking this weak pawn structure. And you can see Capablanca has completely taken over this h file. He is ready to go for rook to h7 so that he can target this c7 pawn, and it kinda looks like black is essentially in zugzwang. Every move he makes seem to worsen this position. And so king to f8, preparing for king to g7, but before that simply rook to h7 and rook to c6, and now knight to d7 might be the better option for white so that he can give a check from d8 square. He's also targeting this d5 pawn, but instead he goes for the move which is g4, and now white has these strong passers which he can promote in future. Okay, and after this knight to c4, but guys, here knight to b3 might be the better option with the idea of knight to c1, trying to just attack this bishop, but he goes for and now black can continue with knight to d1, And now you can see no one can guard this c3 pawn. So let's suppose if this game continues like bishop to b1 due to the threat of this, and you can see. So knight takes c3, and let me know in the comment that why black can't go for rook takes c3 check. Okay, for now, since this bishop is attacked, so that's why bishop to d3, knight takes a4, and suddenly you can see black is back into the game. But in the actual game, after the move king to f3, here black made a mistake by knight to f5, which allows Capablanca to go for a great move, preparing for king to h4 and then king to h5 so that he can support this g pawn. And after that, king to f6, threatening mate in 1, so that's why. And in this position, Tartakower resigned. This is because you can see now no one can stop this pawn from promotion. Okay, so let's suppose if this game continues like rook to d4, keeping an eye over this pawn, but simply d7, and obviously black cannot capture this g7 pawn due to the threat of d8 equal to queen with a check by this rook on c7 to this king. So that's why b5, king takes b5, rook to d5 check, king to c6, rook to d3, king to b7, and you can see rook to b3 check, and finally king to c8, and yeah, you can see no one can stop this promotion. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.